Today, I'm joined by James Griffin, the founder and CEO of Invine, healthcare AI consultancy that's become one of the most trusted partners for healthcare innovation. They're known for tackling the most complex product and software challenges in healthcare. Some key bullet points to note: James has worked with 20 Fortune 100 companies, helped bring 22 FDA-cleared products to market, supported the launch of 400 plus digital products across healthcare, life sciences, and MedTech, and he's also Forbes Next 1000 honoree. For those who don't know, my name is David Sassower. I'm the founder and CEO of Almost Digital, a web design agency based here in Dallas. And James, welcome.
Welcome. Glad to be here.
100%. So I think it would be cool to start with a high-level overview of how you got into the business and, how'd you start Invine?
Yeah. So I actually found this business directly while I was in college. So throughout my whole college career, I was always a wannabe entrepreneur. So I was constantly founding businesses and none of them really worked out. And my last business I actually had during college was actually automating college advising with AI to help students graduate quicker with less debt. So I used all my internship money on that particular business. And as you know, businesses, very expensive. Product businesses take a lot of capital. You have to hire people. So I ran out of that quickly. And so I was like, okay, what do I have to do with this company? So I had a couple of options. I could A, go out and raise money from local angel investors. I could partner with the local ed tech entrepreneur, split 50-50, or C, figure something else out. At the time, I was of the vision of, hey, I got to own everything. I got to own my equity completely. So what I ended up doing was actually start consulting on the side. So my first ever company I consulted with was actually for a local company here in DFW. Basically, they label syringes in the anesthesiology operating room for both charge capture and safety concerns. And so I helped kind of build V2 of their product, a web app, a mobile app, and then a V2 of their hardware device. Basically, it was on a proprietary version of BASIC.
That's super awesome. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of when I started my first company, Career Scale. That was a resume building software. So in career services, similar.
And you realize that EdTech sucks to sell to.
That is one of the things I realized, yeah. And then I shifted over towards web design, so consulting of sorts, so similar.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to get into it. Why, or we'll say, how has Invine changed in what you do from imagining at that point when you first shifted into it to today?
Yeah, so you kind of think about it. I think I've ran this now for 7 or 8 years. So founded directly out of my dorm room and kind of scaled us into a national forum, multi-offices across the U.S. Kind of our big ones right now is DFW, Austin, Boston, Minneapolis, and Nashville. Okay, I remember the fifth one. Okay, so kind of what it started, initially it was just me. Okay, it was just me coding. Eventually, I moved over my employees from my ed tech company over to my services firm, and then we just started scaling, growing over time. One of the biggest changes that we made was about, let's call it 7 years ago, 7 months ago, we actually acquired a company called Guidea. And so we acquired them. Originally, we had just been pure technology, pure data play. We actually acquired a top product strategy and management consulting firms so we could actually roll that into our offering. So instead of just dealing with the hardest data challenges in healthcare, we could now tackle the hardest product challenges in healthcare so we can move up the value chain.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that later in the episode, so happy we tackled that early. And then where do you see, I guess, to bring it all together on the foundation of the business, where do you see Invine going in the next few years? Similar, we're going to keep acquiring, or where are your thoughts there?
When I kind of look at 2026 and 2027, I really think it's just hit domination within our certain markets. Mm-hmm. So when I look at the markets that we're in right now, we've only tapped a small percentage of the revenue and the client base. So really we're honing in, because when I started out, I think we made a mistake if we went national too soon. So we expanded everywhere and we did so much. And I was on a plane all the time. I was attending 15 conferences a year. But then when we actually looked at our revenue and we looked at where our profit was coming from, it came from a couple of key cities. So we kind of are now narrowing in, having a very much region-based approach, and we're really focusing in on that. Now, when you ask about acquisitions, probably not for 2026 unless I see a really good deal. And for 2027, I'll probably make 1 to 2 more to kind of expand some of our practices and our service offerings.
Yeah, well, I was going to save the shifting into the marketing part for later, but I think it's a good time, because even for ourselves, like, we're seeing the focus on regional marketing, we'll say Dallas-Fort Worth specifically, being super important for us. So can you kind of talk through why, like, let's say the principles of why that's important for your firm?
Yeah, so in a business like mine with high value ticket items, relationships. And at the end of the day, you can do business over Zoom. I've done a lot of business over Zoom, but there's something to be said about in-person meetings and building trust and relationships and showing up. Plus, many people nowadays don't even show up in person, so you really differentiate yourself from all your competitors. So when I really look at kind of a region, what I did was that there was about 15 different associations we could have been a part of, and we narrowed it down to about 3 to figure out where we best kind of can spend our money.
Would you say that being based in McKinney, a lot of the focus is in Dallas area specifically, or just all across the major cities that you, like the few cities that you outlined?
It's always going to be easier in DFW because I'm here. But I think my approach has always been, hey, go hire executives that live in the other cities to kind of own a region. Because as I tell my team, just on my call with Florida recently, and I was like, hey, look, what you need to do is you need to consider yourself as the CEO of your own region. Come to me with, hey, these are the marketing initiatives we need to do based on your specific region, because every region operates a little differently. So for example, Minneapolis, a big one there is Medical Alley. So we're a sponsor of that now. So each region, I have my leaders actually come to me and give me what we should be spending on. Now I'm the leader of DFW, so I'm the one that performs all those metrics.
And so what are let's say in each of those regions, I'm curious to know, like, what are the main marketing efforts? A lot of in-person, I'm assuming, a lot of conferences, a lot of events. Is there any other major ones? And
I think that really nails it.
Really?
A lot of coffee chats. Get so much coffee. I am powered by coffee shops. And what I try to do is actually, I don't try to just go to Starbucks, because just going to Starbucks all the time, kind of lame.
Yeah.
So instead what I do is I try to find, local coffee shops, and really not me, my assistant.
Yeah. No, coffee shops are super key. I think it's kind of interesting to kind of double click on that, where coffee chats in person in a time where I feel like everything is over Zoom. Everyone wants to have a coffee chat over Zoom rather than in person, where I think, like, even for us, one of the key differentiators was that we'd be willing to go to your office and meet with you, talk through the website in person. And so do you see, as you scale, that focus on the in-person is going to be just super key for what you're doing?
It's critical. It's actually the most important thing. And I have to train my people to be like, in person actually matters, because everyone nowadays wants to work from home. And yes, absolutely work from home. Zoom is convenient. Executives are spread out everywhere. But if you look at the numbers, you look at the close rates, you look at the conversation, I actually have better success first meetings getting a coffee with someone than a Zoom, because especially when building a relationship, people may not admit it, but there's something to be said.
I completely agree. When I was looking at the numbers on getting a coffee with a prospect versus, over Zoom, I think it was like a double in like conversion rate or something like that.
Mine's probably 4x.
Yeah. So no, it's incredible. And so do you consider, well, actually we'll focus on that. So we talked about in person a little bit. Online, what are kind of the key areas that you focus on for digital marketing for your company?
Okay. So my view is, how do we establish ourselves as experts in the healthcare space? And specifically right now, we're really focused on payer, provider, and health tech. Now we have some work in life sciences med device, but I kind of narrowed it in because that's massive and we can't do everything all the time, albeit we are doing some interesting stuff in life sciences. My view of it is, I kind of look at, there are 2 critical platforms. The first is our website. So we probably put out a blog article written by me every 3 to 5 days. That's really topical. That's going to help our SEO. That's going to really help us scale. So we started slowly getting inbound interest from people coming. The second one is, I post 3 times a week on LinkedIn, and maybe eventually over time I'll go to 5 times a week on LinkedIn. And that's really because I have thousands and thousands of connections upon LinkedIn. That's just demonstrating our expertise. And my view is always, how do I educate people on a cool topic rather than sell? Because I play a lot across healthcare. Everyone in healthcare is in very specific domains. So my focus is, hey, let's talk about the latest and coolest thing in healthcare.
Yeah. I want to focus on, we'll get back to the LinkedIn because that's super important too. But for the website, it's interesting you bring up blog posting, because I think a lot of the websites we've seen, especially from before we get involved with a client, they have a blog. Nearly every company has a blog, but they don't put a lot of effort into it. So would you say that you've been getting a lot of engagement from that blog because you're putting a lot of effort into it? You're making actual posts rather than, like a ChatGPT generated, blog or something?
I think that it's about half and half. I think what happens is it builds up over time and you're surprised what hits. So for example, our topics are very, very technical. Let's go talk about 835, 837's EDI, or let's go talk about ADT HL7 messages. So let's go deep in a way that people can actually like add value. Yeah. Because so much topic is, how to be a great leader. How do do custom software? Like, people don't look at that. People want real answers to real questions. So we go deep into our topic and we demonstrate our healthcare expertise all the time. And so that actually pays the dividends, because you can look at our blog right now and be like, these guys get it.
Yeah.
They know it, and it gives a lot of comfort. So my problem, I think a lot of companies are just unwilling to actually put real stuff on their blog that's valuable because they're aware, they're scared of giving away IP, but that isn't how it works. People read it and they're like, oh, they get it. They understand, and then they talk to you. So I found blog's been great. If we look at all of our metrics, we're up and to the right, because what I did was I hired someone to help me on my marketing, and she kind of runs it. But a lot of the content and the knowledge come from me or my other executives.
Would you say it's similar from the blog to your LinkedIn posting that sometimes you can't predict as well what's going to do super well? You know, you kind of just, you'll do your best on the post and you'll see what takes off.
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends if I'm being controversial or not. I've had posts go viral on LinkedIn, and I was very confident they were going to go viral, but controversial. So that's always kind of the push or pull, especially in healthcare. You can have posts that surprise you on what goes viral versus what not. But for example, I recently wrote a post, a couple of weeks ago, talking about how John Oliver his team of writers didn't consult anyone from Medicare Advantage space. I knew that post would go viral, and I knew I'd get attacked a lot for it. So it's just knowing it's always a good mix, because you don't want to go viral for the wrong reasons too much, but it's always kind of an exploration.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. LinkedIn content has been such a huge thing, since I've started the business a little bit over 2 years ago. I've seen LinkedIn blow up as the most important social media platform. Are you looking at all for your company at any other platforms, or mainly just LinkedIn?
No, all I do is LinkedIn, because you look at the other platforms. TikTok. So TikTok, I actually know businesses that do very well on it that sell B2B. ClickUp does very well on TikTok. You have to have the people that understand it. I don't use TikTok. I really don't want to kind of diversify our platform. So other platforms can work, but you need to be committed. I think the most important thing is just commit to a channel, especially as you're growing a business. You're not Microsoft. You don't need to be everywhere. You can just choose a channel and absolutely dominate it if your target buyers are there. My target buyers, C-suites of these mid-market and enterprise healthcare companies, they're all on LinkedIn.
I think that's another key thing, probably the most key thing, is really identifying where are the people that you want to advertise to. And I think for most of the B2B companies I see, LinkedIn is, sure, they might be on Instagram per se, they might be on Facebook, but they're not in that mode where they're actually conducting business, they're looking, they're researching, things like that. So it's like I think Gary Vee says, like, platforms and culture in a lot of ways.
X is also a great one, actually.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Tons of people on X, but I'd get myself on trouble on X, so that's why I just avoid it. LinkedIn, obviously professional. The problem with X is it can mix a little personal, professional. You can get into areas where you probably shouldn't. So that's why I just avoid it.
Yeah, 100%. And I'd imagine for your firm, as well as other firms, but for your exact niche as well, it's reputation is the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's too easy to X. It's great if you're going to I'd call it hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
So a lot of healthcare company CEOs are onto it, and they perform hand-to-hand combat. That's great. We are Switzerland. We deal with payers, providers. We deal with everyone, governments. So because of that, we want to be a little less controversial.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, on Twitter, the platform or the culture of that platform is it's not all business. They could be looking at your post, which is highly technical, and the next post on that is very controversial and nothing to do with healthcare. So it's, that's something to be considered as well. We talked about LinkedIn, we talked about in-person marketing, about branding, right? So how important has branding been for you in building the reputation around Invine?
So my view of it, I'm a consulting firm, end of the day, just like you. You're a consulting firm too. My view is it's all about building eminence in your local community. And so that means that what boards are you involved in? Who are you meeting? Who do you know? How are you giving back to the community? Are you adding value to the whole ecosystem? And are you well known in your local community? Because you can always have a national presence, but it's really critical to dominate regionally.
Yeah. No, and again, I see that for myself as well, because it's not that I think 20% of our business comes from Miami and New York or just random states throughout the country, but I think there's a reason why 80% is in Dallas, Fort Worth. And you could still, is a lesson I've been teaching myself as well, you can still double down your active marketing for this region, but then still do business elsewhere if it comes to you.
So my push to you is, who's the David of Miami? Who's the David of New York? That's how you're going to scale, and that's how you're going to grow, because you need your executives to own a market, because you cannot be everywhere. Yeah, I'm on a plane too at my markets, but you have leaders.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And so a question to that as well, in terms of scaling, what were some of your first employees? And I'd love to talk more about the recruiting for your
My
firm.
first employees, somehow they joined me. I don't know why, but they did it. Props out to lots of them. Developers, UX, UI designers, that sort of thing. We had no idea. Like, the reason why we're a fully remote company is I wanted an office, and the first ever employee I hired, Jonathan, he told me, he's like, hey, James, I'll work for you for this absolutely terrible salary, but I don't want to come in. And I was like, absolutely. So that was my first ever employee. He's excellent. He's great.
Yeah.
He was with us for about 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And then what he did was he actually joined one of our clients as their directors of engineering. So very, very happy for him. Good change. And so that happened with a lot of my early employees is we kind of figured out who fits versus who doesn't, but we have very low turnover.
And I guess curious for myself as well as other consulting firms, what are some of your good tips for recruiting and retaining talent around, when you're a consulting firm?
I think that you really have to accept that people are going to go on after a couple of years. So consulting is traditionally an up and out industry. It's kind of like a pyramid. You look at all the local consultancies here in town, Slalom, Paraveda, Dilexa, now IBM. You're looking at Valent Partners, all the guys. Like everyone runs the same playbook of, I don't know, everyone has different terms, but associate to senior associate to manager to principal to partner to VP or whatever they call it. So everyone has it. And so consulting, if people aren't moving up, they start looking around. So it's really devising your strategy around how do you show that constant career growth for earlier stage employees, and then decide, are you going to be an up and out culture, which is fine, or are you going to be that people can get stuck at tiers, because that can work, but then your pyramid gets inverted. So that'd be my push, is like figuring out which one you are and being very clear about it.
And I guess how it's, and so for your company, you foster more of the long-term growth. It's not an up and out sort of consulting firm, like hiring principals, right?
So we kind of tried to combine a little both. Some people like sticking at tiers, and then we have an up or out. But one of the weaknesses of my consulting firm is we're really good at taking juniors to mids to seniors to principal engineers. We're not as good about getting people to like managers and directors and VPs. So that's internal initiative of how do we take someone who's excellent technically and help them learn client management, help them learn sales. Because to be a partner at a company like Invine, it takes a lot. And while we have great people, we're working on training methods to actually get them there.
That makes sense. And so, for recruiting these people, do you use LinkedIn a lot of the times? Or
So I use LinkedIn a lot. And a lot of it is texting my friends and being like, hey, who is poachable?
Yeah.
So the best kind of way, a lot of it is your network, because your network knows people. And especially if you know people that, let's say, left from your competitors, you talk to them, you exchange some text messages, like, who's the best people you worked with? And they'll give you names, and then your job is then to extract them from the company, which, by the way, helps two ways. Weakens a competitor, strengthens you. You just got to be careful about non-competes and covenants.
And so, LinkedIn, using your network, any other major methods, or that's kind of the two major ones you look at a lot of the time?
LinkedIn, network, we've explored, we've hired our first, recruiter and using, placement for some of our executives to help with that. Really, we're exploring all the above. That's always my approach in almost anything, to like find good talent, because talent is so critical in consulting that I want to get that person in.
Yeah, and I bring it up to say what's interesting in my experience is that a lot of the same principles we've used for acquiring clients has also taught us a lot of things for acquiring talent. I feel like there's a lot of similarities there too. So I don't know if you've seen that as well, where you can meet with them in person, using LinkedIn, using your network, those sort of things. So how important has referrals been on the client side to your business as well?
50-50. So one of the benefits of us is that we're very good hunters. So we're very good at building relationships from cold to known to warm to a relationship. So that's why it's about 50-50. And that's really propelled our growth, because every consulting firm grows via referral. What really differentiates excellent consulting firms is their ability to hunt and kill. And that's one of the reasons why, we purchased Ideas. They had excellent referrals, but they didn't necessarily have that growth engine that we do around hunting and killing.
Can you talk through that process and what they do and like the reasoning behind all of that? And
yeah,
just curious on that.
Kind of one of the reasons why I really bought them was that I kind of looked at it in multiple areas. Okay. So first area was that great clientele. Traditionally, we'd been mid-market focused. That's a lot of my expertise. That's how I got 20 of the Fortune 100. I bought that. Yeah. I bought all those people. I bought the people that did the work, and I was like, you're all mine now, and I'm going to claim this as my win. Yeah. Hey, I paid money for it. I can do it. Yeah. I felt like weird for like a month or two, and then I was like, hey, look, imagine if I was a CEO that came into this, I would be touting my horn every day of the week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of the focus with them. So clients, big, gives us a lot of space to farm. Number 2 was that it had an excellent team that I really wanted to be part of my team. They'd been a partner with ours for a year. They'd done great work. We'd done great work together. There was very obvious synergies. So I wanted their team. Third, I wanted to tie product and engineering closer, but the only way to do that was actually acquiring a firm. I wanted to have a whole interwoven process, because what happens in engineering if you don't have strong product is you have scope overages. So I wanted product to come in before engineering, lead engineering, so then engineering can focus on engineering instead of, let's say, all the scoping that's required, and to actually delivery. So that was another critical aspect. The fourth was it gave me the ability to actually go sell to different stakeholders. Before, my stakeholders were only CTO, CIO. Now I could sell to the CPO, the Chief Product Officer. Boom, I could sell to the COO. I could sell to the CRO around sales demos and vision demos. Like, there was all this whole new opening of abilities I could go sell. Another thing that I could go do is I could go sell other services across all my clients already and past clients, which was very successful. So it just really made sense on like every single level, from just the synergy on incorporating it.
That makes sense as well. It's kind of interesting as well, because when you're acquiring a firm, I didn't even think about that as well, that a lot of the reputation, the brand, the access to the network, that all comes with it as well. That's probably also a big decision for buying most firms. People do.
I think it was like half and half with me on that, because like I already have lots of relationships. And so with them, it was everything else. And really the most important part is the team, because if you buy the relationships, you buy the logos, and you have the team that performs, your reputation is going to go in the junk. But because I got the whole team, it was excellent.
You know, switching gears a little bit back to the website, because I do want to talk about that a little bit more. And maybe I'm biased.
Ask 100 website questions. I love it.
Maybe I'm biased. So you also mentioned, so that firm you acquired, they do mainly products, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then do you help a lot with, and we talked about this a little bit, but like consult on or anything with web design and that sort of thing?
No.
God, no?
I will not. No, I'll refer all those people to you. The company that did my web design was actually Idea. And I paid a premium, and one of the reasons why I paid them a lot of money, even though they weren't web design, was because they had great people, and because I wanted to see how we worked together on an internal initiative. So it was worth every penny. We were actually in active acquisition talks at the time, so it made sense because we were preparing already to like in the future vision. So like we kind of had an idea.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so in your space in healthcare, what are some of the most important things you look for in a website?
Logos. People buy via logos. People in healthcare are risk averse, and they want to be like, I don't want to lose my job. So logos are critical. Case studies are critical, and they look at leadership. So the two biggest, when you go to my site, here's what you're going to do. You're going to scroll down slightly, see all my logos, okay? Yeah. And you're going to see them all, and you're like, okay, they're legit. And then what you're going to do is you're going to click about in leadership.
Yeah.
And that's what most people do on my site. Before they decide whether to take a meeting, they scroll down, they look at our logos, and they click about us, and they want to see who are these people, where are they located, are they legit? Yeah. That's what people are doing, because basically what happens when I email someone, I'm trying to set up a meeting, they say yes or no, they make a 30-second yes/no decision, they look at the site. So I look at it as my website. I care less about it from a cold person on Google search or, AEO, actually finding it from like ChatGPT or Perplexity. I care about it more of, hey, I just pinged someone I'm going to be in Boston to go grab coffee with who's the CEO who doesn't know me well, maybe seen his LinkedIn post or two of mine. He's going to go to that site and look at it and be like, is this someone that I want in my network? That's the goal of my site, is to make us look awesome.
I could talk about that topic for 2 hours, because a lot of the conversations I have, a common objection is, well, our firm, we don't get a lot of business from our website. But what I think a lot of companies don't realize is exactly that, where they're not necessarily submitting the contact form or finding you on SEO, but they are going to check your website to see if you're a valid company. And I think in today's time, because everyone is checking your website, I just don't see why you wouldn't want to invest into that to actually make sure that every single one of those are done right.
So I'm really going to push on that too, because I get that, but the problem is I don't think most people realize just how those decisions are made. Because when people, because you get it all the time, like I get a lot of reach out requests, a lot of people want to chat, all this other thing. It is so critical to your reputation, or if you want to go recruit people. People check out your website. And the biggest mistake some people, whenever you're hiring them, is they don't actually look at your website. So one of my favorite recruiting questions is always, hey, what do we do? And they'll just be quiet. And then if they're like, oh, I didn't look at your website, I'm like, okay, Why would I hire you if you didn't look at a website and didn't spend the 30 seconds?
Yeah.
So it's things like that where websites are critical. And also, if you start asking, hey, I saw you looked at our website, they can also, if they can't explain what you do, maybe your website doesn't have good content on it.
Yeah, most of the work that we do now it's less around the design, it's more around the copywriting, the strategy. Okay, you have all these things in your website. Our website we're working on now has, I think, 100 and so pages, and we're bringing it down to 5. And so how can you actually explain all this? How can someone know what you do as soon as you get to the header? And so I think that is a lot of work that we've been doing. I think a lot of companies could benefit from that. So
let me call out some other cool things that we did in our website that we think was critical. What we did was actually we called out some of our locations of like where we are. So instead of being like, oh, we're a national firm, I actually listed our hubs because it's critical, because that's where most of our businesses and people like visiting locally. So it's things like that we actually call out, and we also kind of talk about who we are, who we aren't. So for example, we're fully US-based company. We have no offshore. That's going to disqualify us from other things, but companies that really want that US-based healthcare presence are going to go with us. So it's being very clear about who you are.
Yeah. And I think, but that's such a key lesson to know what should be spelled out, because most companies, you could just say we're nationwide or we have offices everywhere. But I think listing the, 6 or whatever offices that you have is actually it's going to more directly explain, the reputation, the prestige of the firm. And so I think that's some of the work we're doing as well, is like, how do you know what should be its own page, what should be its own section versus what should be literally in a drop down. And there's a whole principles that go into that. So. And so so you mentioned logos, right? When you say logos, do you mean more the,
who your clients are?
Yeah. Things like, so recognizable logos, things like that.
Recognizable logos. Like, you should look at that. And the thing is, recognizable logos to your target clients. Okay. So like the thing is that you can have a big logo in manufacturing. And if you go to a healthcare person, no one will have any idea what it is. So you need to have a logo that resonates with your market.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I will say, even personally, when I went to your site, I think the first thing I saw was like Johnson & Johnson, all the big names. And it's hard to argue that a firm doesn't know what they're doing if you have the biggest names in that industry on the website. So I think whenever you can. So
it establishes immediate credibility.
Yeah. And so did you mention case studies as well? I don't know if we talked about that. So you said that's also super important for your website.
Case studies, always adding new ones too, because so this is a personal on mine. So I'm not sure anyone else in the industry believes it, but I believe that you should always be adding more case studies. And like, you should really think about how do we grow our expanse on it, versus like a lot of companies I just see it do like 3 case studies. They're like, we're done forever. And it's like, okay. And by the way, that isn't even like, we have our case studies on our website, and then we have hundreds and hundreds of more case studies just internally that we use in like our proposals and pitch decks. But case studies suck to build. And so it's building out a really seamless process that you can go from beginning of project, middle project, end of project to case study very easily, versus, 9 months pass. We need case studies. And then it just happens.
We also on the podcast talk a lot about like proposals, pitch decks, things like that from a design perspective. And so you want to talk about that for like your proposal process and things? I don't know if any of that's confidential, but
yeah. So I have one of my VPs run that, who's doing a fantastic job. Actually came from the Idea acquisition. She was the second in command. Kind of now my VP of product runs all my proposals. She built a whole streamlined process beginning to end. I think she gave me the metric. She's like, hey James, before you acquired us, it took you about 3 weeks to create a proposal. Now we're 3 days. So because of all of her streamlined process and what she built, it made it much quicker, which also raised our close rate, because instead of taking forever to get it all down, we started building it out. And also we leveled up our professionalism.
Yeah, we see, even for ourselves, the proposal process, we're trying to bring it down, because right now it takes a ton of time for us to create a proposal. And I couldn't imagine how much time it takes you for your deals as well.
It was so much time.
Yeah, 3 weeks is a lot of time.
The thing is also, not only did we cut from 3 weeks to 3 days, we also cut the amount of time required to do it. We cut down the amount of touch points. We cut down my time it took. Took it down my other executives' time. It was great. It was streamlined, and probably one of the best things possible that I didn't even know I'd get. So it was fantastic.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so are there any big tips that you'd have around creating your proposals, around your pitch decks? Even if, I don't know if it's not you as much anymore, but you're still involved with that.
Yeah, so I think it's understanding who the audience is. So for example, a lot of times, depending on your ticket, are you actually selling to the decision maker? Does the decision maker or does your stakeholder have to go to their boss to sell it? Is it for C-suite? Is it for a board? Is it for a VP? Who owns the budget? Because how you sell and what your proposal looks like changes. So for example, one of my clients, what they do when they do their proposals is they know that they don't sell the decision maker, so the decision maker has to go to committee always. So they have to make that proposal in a way that make that stakeholder look great, that they can hand to their boss and get a yes, no. So you have to know who actually buys from you. And like, because let's say you hop on a call, you walk through a proposal, you need to prepare your stakeholder. If they're not the CEO, how are they going to sell it to the person that actually has the money? Yeah. That's always kind of what I think is not just who you're presenting to, but who actually buys.
No, that's such a key point. And I think even for us, we try to tailor it as well to that, because a lot of the times I've noticed I probably don't include as much information as I should if I think I'm presenting just to, let's say, the VP of marketing or whoever the person may be. But if they have to take that, relatively, more brief proposal to the CEO and explain this is what the firm does, he's going to say, where's the rest of the information? So.
And also you can also have different. So you can have two things. We call it leave behinds. And then you can also have presentations. So you can, in presentations, you can cut out a lot of the junk, and then in the leave behind, you can actually include the other information about, hey, why we're awesome, that kind of thing. Or what we do, we actually include everything because we don't want to cut out slides. That just adds another step. So in our slide, why we're awesome, we actually just skip that. We like click it. Hey, look at all of our pretty logos. Click. Hey, look at all even more logos. Here's hundreds. Click. And then we just move on. Well, actually, we have 3 slides like that, actually.
Really?
We have logos, all of our awards. I think we've won 25 like national awards for all of the designs we've done. It's great. Yeah. But it's literally click, click, click. It's like, you don't need to go on. Like, no one cares. But it's good because when that goes to CEO, he'll be like, oh, this is a reputable firm. That's only the pages they're supposed to do.
Yeah, and I think that it kind of brings up a fundamental point of when you have social proof like that on your website, your pitch deck, whatever it might be, use it a ton, because that is like that's probably one of the main things that people remember about going to your site is the people you worked with. And they'll remember maybe 1 or 2 other things, but it's probably one of the things that they remember the most.
One call out that you don't want to do, though, is that you don't want to list logos on your site of people that don't like you. So I've known that from local companies that have done that. And like, I'll see a logo on their site, like, oh, you work with X. And I'll actually talk to the owner of X or the CEO of one of the C-suite. Like, they did a terrible job. And then in my back of my mind, I'm like, why do you have a case study on your site of a company that thinks you did terribly? Like, you can just ping them. So that's a call out. Make sure that, they're good.
That's kind of like when someone's applying to your company and they put a recommendation and you call that guy and he's like, he did a horrible job. You definitely don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's I completely agree. It's super interesting.
Sometimes people just jump the gun because they're so excited for the logo, but no matter what the quality of the work is, but you got to make sure that you did great work.
Yeah. I think it's such an interesting point too, that you could put logos on your website, but it's about recognizing the logo too. And so it might be a big company, it might be a big firm, but if the target person you're going for hasn't seen it or doesn't know what the company is, then it's kind of useless to put on there because they're just going to know it's a company and that's it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So are there any other marketing strategies, tips, branding, design work that we haven't talked about that we want to hit on? Because we haven't talked a lot about product design as well. I think it could be interesting.
I would really think and vision around it is that no, you've got to, both build your company brand and your own brand. They kind of like coincide, especially in consulting. So it's all about how you're also building your own personal brand as you build your company's brand.
Do you want to talk about, I'm curious on that for personal branding, how you view that every single day versus the company brand, because they are a little bit different, and how do you go about kind of processing and actually going about marketing, yourself versus the company differently?
I think it really comes down to being okay with things that are going to take, 20 to 30 years, because you're going to be in business for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. You're going to be in business a long time. And so it's okay being involved in things that don't have an immediate business impact, even to this one. And it's just having strong relationships. So that's my view of it, is that not everything has to be 100% always everything you're doing for the business. It can also be for you sometimes. Yeah. Knowing a family office who does manufacturing has no relevance to my business. Still good for me to have. It's still good for to have relationships there. So it's things like that. It's taking a little longer view on your career and understanding that you can't just get so myopic on your own business because you'll miss something out. Yeah,
I completely agree. And one of the good things coming out of SMU I always thought about was that everyone that I'm friends with, well, none of us are business owners. I mean, I was doing this through college, but when I first got to college, none of us are business owners yet, but eventually we're all going to grow up, have careers. And so those relationships nurture over time. And even as you're in business now, a relationship with that manufacturing company or family office, they might not be valuable now, but in 10 years they might be. And so I think keeping that in mind is super important.
Yeah. And also, I love how you mentioned growing relationships. It was actually one of my biggest mistakes in college is I just sat in my room and coded all the time. So I didn't necessarily form those deep relationships the way I could have.
Yeah.
I could have recruited so much more talent if I built it, but I
Yeah.
didn't. Unlike you know, who was social and did things, I just coded. I wanted to own a business.
Yeah. No, I completely get it. So you talk about personal branding a little bit. Is there any other major tips you'd have? And it seems like obviously the company brand is more important for even what you're doing. But do you have any other tips for how you're looking to brand yourself personally versus the company?
Well, one of the benefits that we've been able to do is that sometimes, our joke in the early years of Invene is it was a James Griffin show. Yeah. And so now we can be like, oh, well, it's XYZ ABC show, and it's great. It adds more people. So it's good. It still shows because at the end of the day, consulting is a regional fiefdoms. Even McKinsey, it's regional fiefdoms. But that's okay. It's just building out the prominence per person.
That's super interesting. And do you also think in the consulting firm model, there's just because it's a lot more or done right, it's a lot more in person, takes time to build these sort of things. Do you think the time horizon, which you have to look at, is very different versus a different business model or whatnot? So
absolutely,
yeah.
You have to take it differently because the other problem with consulting is unless you have recurring revenue, you gotta sell, and it creates you on a treadmill, and so you better get on it. Better get on the hamster wheel.
Yeah, 100%. And how much longer? Let's say like in the software, or we'll say in the consulting world, how long of a time horizon do you look out at for your business? It's not quarterly or yearly. It's what are you looking to build over 10 years?
Yeah, so I look at it. Obviously, you have to have your 3-year plan, your 1-year plan, your quarters. Okay,
Yeah.
So you always got to have that. I also take a 20-year view though, because we can't be making short-sighted, myopic decisions when I'm going to be in this industry 20 years and I want to absolutely dominate it. So I really want to make sure that we don't sacrifice the short term for the long term, because sometimes it's okay to say no to a deal, even if it hits your numbers for the quarter, because it sets you up for failure in the future. Some of my biggest mistakes are saying yes to deals.
Yeah. Yeah. And my trusty iPad reminded me of a good question that I wanted to ask you, because in your LinkedIn, the second line is healthcare AI. So I wanted to focus on the AI part of what you're focusing on, your outlook on it, how it's changing the industry. Just talk about all that.
Yeah, so basically how I kind of think about healthcare as AI is very much we're going into the human in the loop phase. We haven't fully nailed out agents that just interact with, get an input, puts out an output. A lot of times right now what we're doing is human in the loop below a certain confidence threshold. Sometimes you can have it go fully through. My view of it is it makes a lot of sense, and a lot of companies have a lot of trouble going from 40 use cases down to 2. And that's a lot what we help companies with, is narrowing it down and then actually building an implementation strategy tied to it. Because it's not just, okay, we have a great AI strategy, but how does this actually fit in our business and propel us forward? Because I wouldn't just look at AI as cutting costs. Yes, AI can cut costs. I'd look at it, how can it do things better than a human and also be more efficient? Because efficiency helps you do things that aren't even possible. Like the things that you're seeing in voice agents right now in healthcare is incredible.
Do you want to talk through that for anyone who's not aware? So voice agent.
Yeah, so a voice agent's basically traditionally, so what you did, kind of the evolution of voice technology is V1, you called on a phone, you got on hold. Okay. Yeah. V2 is the IVR of press 1, press 2, press 3, and we were the IVR age. 3. Now we're in era 3, which is the voice agent phase. And what voice agents are is basically they're an LLM that sound like a human, that have real human utterances that you talk to, that route you to a new human or help you actually do a task. So for example, in the healthcare space, you may connect to the practice management system to actually go schedule an appointment, and the voice agent can do that on the call. Or you might have your voice agent go connect with the RCM, which is revenue cycle management, basically where you do billings and collections, to go call a provider to go get the eligibility attached to it. So what they're doing is they're taking manual tasks that you had to call someone and helping automate it, because right now in healthcare, we have some, but we have lacking interoperability. So these voice agents are actually helping us go and get tasks done that were hard to do, that cost a lot of human hours.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And are there any sort of things that aren't exactly possible yet with AI in healthcare that are being developed now or that are soon to come that you think is going to affect the industry, and just your overall future prediction for how AI is going to affect the healthcare industry?
So what's interesting is that I really think, well, first off, the government's making great progress around interoperability. Huge fan of the CMS interoperability rules. Big fan of what they did with CMS 0057F. I love all of it. Huge fan. I think that AI in healthcare is really taken off over the next 2 to 3 years just because it solves interoperability challenges at scale that we've always had. And so I am very, very bullish on its use when it's used to do things that are efficiency. I think a lot of companies, if they're just looking to cut costs, aren't necessarily going to be able to get all the outcomes they want. They've got to bundle it into other things to really get the return.
100%. I even see that for our own business as well, because a lot of the times when we say we use, if you look on our website, we put the modern agency everywhere and AI. Even when we first met, I was telling you, we're not necessarily using AI just to build a website, cheaper or whatever the case may be. It's also because we can build it faster than a traditional firm, we can actually focus on the other stuff that would be resource constrained. So like, focusing on more time in the copywriting, more time in testing, more time in looking at the analytics, things like that. So I think looking at it as how can AI help you versus how can it just simply cut costs is
the other thing you need to really do to utilize AI effectively is you need to understand what it's good at. The best thing AI is at taking unstructured data to structured data. So for example, a big use case in healthcare is ambient clinical listening. Basically what happens is whenever you go to a doctor, they are going to go create an encounter note. So basically what you do is that all these ambient clinical listening providers go take the transcript of the call, convert it to structured text and create a clinical SOAP note and then implement it into their EMR. So if you're familiar with it, if you ever go to, let's say, Baylor Scott and White, you're going to see it on your MyChart instance, which is a part of Epic. Things like that. It's very, very good at. So you've got to make sure that you're using LLMs for the use case. And you can't forget traditional machine learning because there's Gen AI, which is LLMs, but there's all this other work around all statistical regressions in regular machine learning that you really have to be aware of. But that costs us a lot of money. The reason why Gen AI is so exciting is because it's cheap. It's easy. You can just ping ChatGPT or Perplexity very easily.
Yeah. Do you find yourself using LLMs every single day in your business for even for your own personal or for your business goals? Yeah.
I use it all the time. I mean, I love ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Huge fan.
Yeah. No, and I think what I find so interesting for me is in most of the time I'm using it, it's on the strategy side as well. So if you have an idea, you have a brainstorm, you want to flesh out, you can actually just go into ChatGPT, write it down, and actually consider through all the strategy options. So I think that's kind of interesting for me as well. I don't know if you relate as well.
I don't do that at all.
Oh, you don't?
No, absolutely not. Anytime I try that, it's an absolute idiot. I mean, I'm just like, wow, I'm not going to be replaced for a long time soon here. That's my thought. I do like using GPT on its research. So for example, what I'll do is I'll be like, pull me up interesting results that do X, Y, Z. And what will be interesting is it will pull up reports from all these industry leaders that I wasn't even aware of. So I found it very good to find new reading material. But when it actually comes to like strategy, I'm like, oh, hey, to go execute it. The difference is that the devil's in the details. And because it doesn't have all that knowledge and all that experience, it may output a strategy, but it's not good. It's not optimized. It doesn't actually take all those hard-won lessons of all the patterns you do unless you feed it. Now, maybe I haven't, fed it correctly, but strategy I find in business is actually relatively easy. It's execution at the end of the day. That's the hard part.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, and the problem with any sort of ChatGPT prompt, even a really good one, is that it's still missing 99% of the data it would need to actually create a full-fledged strategy. So
now, look, if you want to get a Neuralink and you want to hook it up to ChatGPT, I love to see that, David. I mean, I'm a huge fan.
Yeah,
if you do that.
Yeah, is that what they're planning on doing with Neuralink?
I don't know. I hope they do it because that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Now, look, my view of that is that, I'm like, man, we're going to merge with the robots. But hey, if all the other kids are doing it, might have to do it too. Gives you an edge up.
And I even saw there was recently, I don't know if it's ChatGPT or another AI company has a wearable where it's going to be recording your data all day, which is kind of interesting. I wouldn't know if I would do that. But the idea is if it's listening to you all day, then it could actually record all the data it would need to have more context in your life, make better decisions, things like that. So I think similar to Neuralink, I think there'll be things like that where the more data you give it, the better it can probably perform. And so I think that'll probably be the thing of the future with Neuralink. So
I'll be very interested. Yeah. I may use it.
I won't be the first, but I will definitely try it. So yeah. So I'm trying to think about what we haven't talked about that's important. So any other marketing tips, website tips, product design tips that come to mind that we haven't touched on?
Understand who your users are. I mean, when we talk about product design, it's like, hey, look, if you're a clinician, for example, people design all these great tools and they're always separate applications. And it's like, hey guys, how does this actually integrate into their workflow? Is it using things like CDS hooks? So understanding how people are going to actually use your application is critical because too many people build a great system that maybe even solves a pain point, but that doesn't actually exist in the current workflow, and there's no mechanism to actually integrate it.
And even when you're building a website, if you don't know who you're talking to, then it's you're just gonna make a generic website. The half the battle is strategizing around the call outs, knowing the right words to use, things like that. So
You gotta know your ICP, ideal client profile. Like, that's who you die upon. And you gotta be okay being a no to your non-ICP. And that's what a lot of people struggle, is that the most important language in business is no.
yeah, no, I completely agree. I do actually, before we go, I do want to focus on product design a little bit because we haven't talked about that as much. Can you talk through a little bit for Invene how what you get involved with for product design, what do you usually offer, things like that?
We really think about it, and our whole focus is around ROI. Because at the end of the day, why are we doing this? What is a return for the business? If you're just doing it just to make yourselves feel good, personally, don't spend money on us. We're a premium experience. Just do it internally and rah, have fun. But we really kind of anchor it on what is a return on this investment that you're making. That's the first thing. Second thing that we really focus on is healthcare is very workflow driven. A lot of times people think they understand the workflows, but they don't actually. So what we do is we may do in-person site visits. We'll interview people. We'll look at how actually people use the technology from beginning to end, and we'll start mapping it out. And a lot of executives have black boxes in their divisions, and they may not realize it. And then we figure out how to kind of tweak it and optimize it and improve it. And so that's a lot what we do in product, is figuring out what are the options and how to most streamline workflows.
Yeah, I would imagine that for the stuff you're building, like the audit process or strategizing and how to, like, which area to actually go down and what to build for the product is almost more important than the actual execution of, like, just actually building the products.
Half and half.
Half and half.
The reason why is, like, you can have the greatest strategy, but if you can't execute, who cares? If you're like a year late, doesn't matter. The thing that product can really do is product can keep the great thing about having product and engineering tied together is that if you do it well, product is not going to close doors that engineering needs to walk through. So if you do it well, you can also have product not do things that are going to take engineering weeks and weeks to do. So for example, it's like, hey, engineering, we have all these here are the options we can do. What's the easiest way to engineer this forward? And then engineering likewise can be like, hey, I need you to keep this door open for me. And product can save engineering weeks and weeks of time by being smart strategy. So I really look at product as it really kind of solves how quick you can do things. If you have a tightly interwoven loop, you can do engineering much quicker because you don't have all that rework. Really what kills you in engineering is V2, V3, V4 because of all the rework that happens because of changing requirements versus if you do a good job of gathering them all up front, you save your time.
Yeah. Can you explain that a little bit more? Why the second version, third version, why that kind of kills the process in a lot of ways?
Yeah. Because let's say, for example, that you build a whole product and then you put it in front of your stakeholders or users and like, it doesn't solve my problem or it doesn't work right. Well, there you go. You've now got V2 of the application, just had a month or two of your timeline. Yeah. So that's really the focus, is making sure that you're really actually solving the use case. And what also engineers, sometimes what they'll do is they'll code exactly what the client wants. But oftentimes it doesn't solve their problem. You actually have to think about it and you have to figure out new and unique ways. And also you have to figure out all the blank space that there is. And there may be other ways to accomplish tasks that are much more efficient, because sometimes technology can't solve everything. If you go and you optimize, if you go digitalize an inefficient process, you now have a inefficient digital process. Instead, someone has to look at it and figure out what steps can actually be removed that aren't needed.
Yeah, 100%. And I even find that for our business, the revisions, if handled not correctly, is what can make a project go upside down or just hurt the margins a lot. So I think kind of nailing it in the earlier stages in terms of knowing how to solve what the client actually needs, their problems, things like that, helps us a lot with making sure we actually give them what they need. And there's tons of times where you get requests for, hey, can we add this? Can we do this? We actually have to step in and say, I don't know if that's actually going to solve the core issue that we're trying to face here. So I completely agree.
Yep. And one of the most critical things with clients is making sure they can actually lead them to the solution, because sometimes clients, if they won't listen to you, the question is, hey, are they paying you for strategy or execution, understanding that? And then also being okay and walking away if you don't think they can actually go solve their problem.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think this was an amazing episode. I don't know about you. And so,
why are you putting me on the spot? What if I think it's mediocre, David? Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? Let's go to the marketing part. Are you trying to be like, David, this is the most fantastic conversation I've ever had. You're the smartest person I've ever met. What are you looking for, man?
No, I hope they're recording that. So,
well, you're just gonna cut it all out and be like, David, is the most smart person. Like, really?
I'm just going to record that, put it as a short, and then call it a day.
Okay.
Where can people find you? Anyone is interested, anyone's looking to become a client, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at invine.com. That's our website. You can find me on LinkedIn, James J. Griffin, CEO and founder at Invine. I'm there. I mean, if you really want to find me, I promise you can find me. I'm one of the easiest people in the world to go find. Now, getting on my schedule, that's difficult, but I'm really easy to go find.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy we got it done. It was great to have you on.
Hey, likewise.